first, I wanted to do this because I wanted you to see my cool sunglasses. You have not seen me in sunglasses yet, so the first step was to unveil my face, and then it is to let you see me in my cool sunglasses. So what I'm doing yesterday, for those that don't know, and it looks like we're working now, so I hope this keeps streaming, and I'll take a look in a minute at some of these comments. But I just wanted to let you all know what I was doing, because I haven't done any of my videos in a while, and I just wanted you to know. So we got in yesterday from Singapore, and we had been flying forever, it seemed like. It was better than the trip out there, but we were so dead tired that made it kind of hard. So dropped Mr. B. We went all the way into Orlando, and Mr. B went home, and then I had to hop a plane back to Atlanta. By the time I got here, I was so dead, I was just like a zombie. So my mother had picked me up at the airport and brought me down, and she told me to take a nap, and I said, yeah, I think I'm gonna do 30 minutes. And then I stayed asleep all day. And so then, of course, and then I went to bed last night, so it was one big day of sleep. So I'm starting to get my mind back a little bit. But that right when I got back together, I was about to put together a video this morning, put some information together on from Swell and different things, and I realized I had two problems. First, I ran out of time. The second was that because I'm having the MRI, that's the pre-ablation MRI today, you can't drink any liquids or have any food for like 4 hours up until the thing. So I did not get the correct amount of coffee nor cinnamon in the coffee, and so we are really having a rough time today, and it'll take probably 2 or 3 more days to catch up on sleep. So I'm headed up to Atlanta to do the MRI, and then tomorrow morning I do the ablation. But after the MRI today, I am going to go and put together minimum 1 video to try to put things together, and maybe even 2. I think that this thing is still working. I'm going to turn the camera around, and then I'll try to read some of these comments here, see who's in here. All right, and I'm sure I don't remember, everybody tells me that comments get really nasty in these things, and so there's Cryptopolis. Hey man, says best wishes, man. And let's see what else. My wife used to work in that department. You'll be fine. Yeah, well, they do say that these ablations are routine, but you know how that goes. They're going into your heart to literally like burn I guess burn's the right word, burn like a nerve to create a new like electrical pathway in your heart. And so I've done one, but this is the second one. And so now it doesn't take, I mean, they do it, and then I think you have to spend 1 night in the hospital and all of that. And so, it says are technologically more savvy than I, and he definitely is. So I'm going to try to, anytime I do this, I won't be doing too many live streams, I don't think, but anytime I do this, I'm going to try to do it sideways from now on. I just tried to turn it, and when I did, it says that my rotation is locked or something like that. But anyway, okay, it says that you guys have me back now, so I'm hoping, and I can't even tell how many people are in this. I think it's 167. It looks like the number's going up, and then I may have lost some because they went back. No, I'm not. There's Mr. B. He says I'm back. But anything that I'm reading your comments right now, by the way. So if there's anything that I see that I can comment on, I will. I'm just kind of flying blind on this one. But I really just wanted to do this live stream just to let you all know that I'm going to do my MRI right now, and then as soon as I get done with the MRI, I'm gonna, tomorrow morning at about 5 something in the morning Eastern time, that's when I'm gonna be doing my ablation. And after that, they should release me within, I think it's 12 or 24 hours, and then it'll be back to things as normal. Nobody wants to do that more than I do. But anyway, enough about that. If you guys see, if there's anything that you have any questions that I could try to answer, I'm happy to do it if I can. I think we're still okay. We've got 266 people in here, and now I don't see enough likes. I see 86. I think that 270 people can do a lot better than that, just so you know. Just watch SpaceX launch from KSC. That's Roy. That's Rocket Roy, who used to be, he sends me messages every once in a while, and in fact he had asked me to call him last week, and I've been so freaking busy that I haven't been able to call hardly anybody. But Roy, if you look at his Twitter page, he was an actual rocket scientist at NASA and worked on the Atlantis. There's a picture of him on there. Just an overall feelings on how it was there in the future of XRP. Here's my overall feelings on Ripple and Swell and how it went. It was not specific things that they announced or specific questions that were asked or answered, because the truth of the matter is, one thing you learn really quick is that if you want to ask a specific question of anybody, if it's a question that a question you really want to hear the answer to, you're most likely going to get a diversion, because that's just the way things work. Now, as far as my impressions, we've told you guys, I think in so many words, I literally, Mr. B and I literally hung out with one specific guy, and I won't say his name, but who his bank moves upwards of $300 billion a day, which I think dwarfs MoneyGram or anything else. And this guy said that they didn't just want to move money using RippleNet, they wanted to move money using XRP, and they are wanting to find out how to do that, and that's why he was there. And we didn't just talk to this guy for 5 minutes. We talked to him in depth for hours in different scenarios, and having a drink or having dinner. And so if you really want to know what's really going on, is the banks are literally lined up at the gates. And what this comes to, and what my impression is as I left Swell, is that this is just a matter of Ripple being careful that they don't scale too fast, because that can be as bad as being the company that's in large demand that Ripple is. It can be a lot worse if you scale too fast, and that is what's really going on. If you want to know. And so what that translates to for me is this 2019 thing, or is it a 2020, or is it 2022? For me, I'm 45 years old. It's not that significant either way. I see this as it might even be much more of the life changer. Now, let me tell you something even more interesting than that. You know, you all thought that when I went to Swell, and when we went to Swell, that everybody was, let me make sure everybody's still here. I've got 405. The assumption is, okay, these guys are going to be able to go and they're going to ask these specific questions to all of these executives, these important executives. Well, do you know what the most important conversation, the most interesting conversation that I had was with the wife, and I'm not going to say which one, but the wife of one of the major executives of Ripple. That was the most interesting conversation I had. And there were no, by the way, there's no NDAs, and nothing was put in front of us to sign or anything like this. So I would not repeat certain things that were said to me, but what I would say is I would repeat a question that I asked one of the wives of the key executives of Ripple. And I asked her, last thing I asked her, I said, do you truly realize that your husband is going to be a part of changing the world? I wanted to know, because when you're talking to their wives, you got a good chance of finding out a lot more than you could from them. That's what I was thinking. Well, I did ask that. I said, do you realize that your husband is going to be a part of changing the entire world? And she said, yes, without a doubt. I do realize that. But then the funnier part is, just as my wife would have done, I said, well, I hope you're really good to him then, or something to that effect, jokingly. And she rolled her eyes the same way that my wife would have rolled her eyes and more or less said, I'm not going to pat him on the back at home, you know, I'm not going to give him that. So these are people just like you and I, and they are excited about what they're doing and what they're working on, just like you and I are. And so those are the kind of, you know, even I went out there with the same kind of thought patterns that you all would have thought too, which is you're going to go out there and you're going to ask these little specific questions and they're going to answer them, and then we're all going to know. It's not that, it's an overall, it's a piecing together of the vibe. Brad Garlinghouse himself told us that 2 or 3 years ago, they could barely even get 200 people to Swell, and that this year they had to cap it at 800. But here's the other thing that I want you all to understand, and this is from my perspective, and I think I can speak for Mr. B as well, and that is one of the main goals that we wanted to accomplish in going out there is that remember, this is the first time that they have ever invited XRP community members to Swell. And so one of the things we saw our job as is to go out there and not screw it up, to go out there and make sure that they realize that the XRP community members are not a bunch of loose cannons that they can't have around their customers. And by doing so, and by looking at it that way in the future, we know that there's a lot of people out there that are watching this right now who deserved to go to Swell. Okay, well, guess what? By being on our best behavior and not being pushy and not being overly pushy or trying to cause any problems and looking the part and everything that we did, I feel like Mr. B and I represented the XRP community well in that respect. And for that reason, in the future, it won't just be a handful. I believe that as they go forward, they'll be able to add people and bring more people out there. Who knows? Maybe down the road it'll be a whole conference full of XRP community members where Brad Garlinghouse is coming and mingling in the crowd. So that's the way that I put my big boy pants on, and I went out there and tried to act like a big boy and do the things that I would, if I were Brad Garlinghouse, I wanted to act the way that I would want these guys that I had invited and given a chance to be a part of this and be around my customers. That was my overall goal, and Mr. B's as well. And so I hope that you know, I'm just trying to give you an overall gist of my thought pattern and that type of thing. And so, but I've got a lot more things. One thing that I do want to say that I thought was just hilarious, and that is, and I can't remember the guy's name. I'll remember it in a video. I'll put a I'll show you the guy in the video because he's Rico Suave, and that's what I called him. There was one guy who I think he is Ripple's head salesman, and I think his name was, I want to say it was Waleed something, but I know I'm going to butcher his name now. Let me make sure everybody's still here. Okay. Yeah, y'all, yeah, dude, smash the likes. Mark UK said to smash the likes, and I agree with him. But anyway, this one guy, we were getting on a bus, and there was two guys on there that were fascinating. The first guy was I'm trying to remember his name. He was the guy that was in the Euro accent. Was it Euro? The first bank to use Euro XM, I believe is the name of the company. Somebody remind me of the name of that bank. It was the first bank that you was going to use XRP. But anyway, the guy that was there was a video back on Twitter a few months back, and that guy was in the video. Euro XM Bank is what. Thanks. That's what I was trying to say. And his name is Graham Bright. Okay, Mr. B, thanks. I see that. It was Euro XM Bank. Well, this guy is like a British guy, and he has a cane, and we saw him in the lobby, and we recognized him, and walked over and started talking to him. And the one question that I asked him is how his customers, when he began using XRP or XRapid, how it affected his customers and his competition, and he said something to the effect of, what competition? That was his answer. So we're waiting on the bus, and we're walking to get on the bus, and he gets on, we get on, and then before we get on, this guy shows up out of nowhere, and he's he had an accent like maybe he was from the Middle East, and he's like this good-looking Rico Suave. He reminded me of like a young Antonio Banderas type guy, and he walks out. He's got this swagger, and he's walking out there, and each one of us, he immediately starts to talk to every one of us, and he's got this look on his face like everyone there is the most important person he's ever met. And I recognized it immediately, and part of the reason I did is because I've read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, and this guy literally just helping each one of us get on the bus, it was like you felt like you were the most important person in the world. And I turned to him, and someone said while we were talking to him that he was in sales for Ripple, and someone else said that he was the head of sales for Ripple. And let me tell you what, I've met two guys like this in my life. The first salesman that I've met like this in my life was when I was working for Morgan Stanley, and their head of sales for all of Morgan Stanley visited our office one time. And this guy looks like you couldn't have painted a picture of his suit better than the way he was wearing that suit, and the way that he walked, and the way that he talked, and everything. Well, when this guy got on the bus, it was like that. And I literally turned to him and I said, you could have written the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because you just treated every single person that was getting on this bus as if they were the most important person in the world. And the reason I tell you that story, folks, because this guy, when you watched him and the way he talked and the way he moved, and before I forget, the guy speaks like 6 languages, and he is from somewhere in the middle. I think he's out of Dubai. But anyway, the reason I wanted to relay that interaction to you is those are the kind of people that are in control of this thing. These are the kind of people. This is the guy you send into the room, and everybody is not just wanting to buy something, but asking what they can buy. And so an unbelievable interaction. It really made an impression on me, and it made both Mr. B and I walked away thinking to ourselves, I would not want my wife in the room with that guy, because he was so good looking on top of having all of those interpersonal skills. And I just thought, wow, this guy was probably hired the second that he walked in the door. And so it's little things like that, and the interactions with the customers that made such an impression on me more than anything. Now, in talking to guys like Brad Garlinghouse, and I'll mention one other thing. I mentioned to you a minute ago that there was a banker who said that they moved 300 billion, I think it was pounds a day. It was what he said. But there was a moment where Brad Garlinghouse was standing beside us, and someone introduced him to this guy. And Brad Garlinghouse grabs his name tag and looks at the name tag, and it was like this. We're talking about one of the largest banks in the world here, folks. Looks at his name tag and says, "Yep, I know you." And so it was one of those moments where you're like, "Okay, you can see where this is all going." Okay, let me look at some of these comments here. It looks like we have 755 people in here. First, pre-allocation theory confirmed. I'm gonna have to go back to my notes on that, but the answer to that is I'm pretty sure yes, but I'll go back to my notes and see what I wrote down on that. We're still live though, aren't we? We're driving down the road here. Let's see. Did I buy more XRP after Swell? I haven't been in front of my computer to make a video, much less do a buy, but the answer to your question is 1,000% yes. The second that I get, and I told Mr. B, the second that I get, because I think I have some Bitcoin that's laying around, and in fact, my discussion was, do I sell all my Bitcoin and go all into XRP? That's what I was talking to these guys about. But yes, I will continue to buy XRP as long as the price is completely irrational, which is what it is right now. So yes, now let me see if I want to make sure that we're still old male beagle named Lambo wants to be, somebody wanted a title there. I write my book. You going next year? Will I go to Swell next year? If I'm invited to Swell, I'll go. The only difference will be that I'll be taking my wife, because I just went on 2 trips that she didn't get to go on, so I'm not going to get in any more trouble here. Let's see what else we have. Let's see. I've tested. Trust me, I know. Can I be the first Filipino of the digital asset investor channel? Alex D, if I follow you, you can certainly be the first Filipino, because you need to send me a message. I said is that I tested it out, and that I used, I tried it out, and yeah, it worked. But I said that not just Power Piggy, but all of these interest-paying things I don't participate in right now. I keep all of my digital assets offline, except for the digital assets that I have that are in place for any kind of sell orders. Like for instance, when I went to Swell, I had a few, and I'm talking about the what Mr. B calls the shallow bags, not my overall. I'm not selling my XRP in bulk for a long time. Probably, I may never sell my XRP. I may, like I've talked about on the channel, it may be more of a situation where I live my life borrowing against my assets, which are XRP. Are you ready to give up doing the dishwasher? Yes, I am ready to give up doing the dishwasher. And as soon as we have some significant price increase, I don't think my wife will have a problem with that. Okay, Scotland, you should visit here sometime. I'm spreading the word of XRP. That's good to know. I haven't been to Scotland yet. I do want to go there, and I want to go see if the Loch Ness Monster is real. Or at least want to go to that lake one day. Well, yeah, Brandon said I'd love to see you one day. We're going to there. You want to come to Manchester? That's where Morrissey lives. I'd like to meet Morrissey. I would like to come to Manchester. Okay, let's see. My mom's probably gonna get sick of my live stream, so I'm gonna not go too long. Let's see. Monster is great. Another guy I wanted to mention to you guys. One thing that was interesting about Ripple, I met Craig DeWitt, and Craig DeWitt, and it's okay for me to say this now. Nobody had ever communicated with me from Ripple, but I think the first person that ever did was Craig DeWitt, and it was just like a thank you for mentioning me on your channel thing, and that felt good. But nobody from Ripple has ever, until Swell, has ever really spoken to me. But Craig DeWitt is about a 6'4", good-looking young guy. A lot of these Ripple people are young people, good-looking people. They really represent that company well, and ultimately your XRP investment. It was very interesting from that perspective to see all that. Let's see what else we have. I'm looking at the comments here, and then I might let you guys go. I don't want to drag this on too long. You have a lot of fans here in the Netherlands. I spoke to some guys in the Netherlands at that XRP meetup. I was amazed by how all over the place, I mean, there are people everywhere that are listening to what we're doing and everything. You need to interview Brad Garlinghouse. Remember you talked, yeah, interviewing Brad Garlinghouse, but this is back to what I was talking about earlier. I saw a few people that were trying to interview Brad Garlinghouse, and there were people that were being blown off on those things. But it's back to what I said earlier. And you got to perceive these things. My perception of these things ultimately, I believe, helps everyone in the XRP community. Because if we went in there, if Mr. B and I went in there and we tried to push our way into talking to this person, while they're trying to talk to their customers and make new connections with customers, for us to do anything much more than observe and report what we thought was okay to report would ultimately hurt the future ability of XRP community members to come into things. And so I think we did everyone a service by not being too pushy in the situation, which is exactly what we did. But I don't think that it'll be a problem whatsoever to talk to, for me to interview Brad Garlinghouse at some point. But I just wanted to do it at the appropriate time where he's not under the gun. This is a guy who, especially in the context of Swell, he's the most important guy in every room, and everyone wants to talk to him. So for me as a YouTuber to try to steal even 10 minutes of his time is a pretty, you know, when he wants to do that, he will certainly do it. He's not some untouchable guy that's not down to earth enough to want to do that. He's very down to earth, but you got to be able to take some context clues about where your place is in different situations, and so I took those. Brad Combs, I'll have to talk to Brad Combs about that. I can't remember if Brad Combs asked anyone specifically about that pre-allocation theory, but I'll talk to him about it. Hello from Italy. I guess you guys speak a lot of English over in Italy, and I would be tough to understand. Okay, I'm going to get out of here, but I just wanted to do this to let you all know, probably when I get done with the MRI, there's Switzerland, probably when I get done with the MRI, I'm going to go and do at least one video that has some substance, and maybe two today. So we are heading for Atlanta, and so thanks for tuning in and watching, and I will be back and do a video later on to David Schwartz versus Hulk Hogan. David Schwartz is a big guy, but Hulk Hogan is a wrestler, so I'm going to go with Hulk Hogan there. Okay, well, I will be probably do a video later on today. Thanks for watching.